I wanted to just.
Hey, good morning, good evening, folks.
Hello. Hello.
Hey, hey, William, thank you. Thank you for opening this meeting room.
I think the Vim is the one.
Yes.
Vim, can you give the host privilege to Rao? Then you can leave, right? So Rao can share the meeting.
I think Wim is also in KubeCon, so I think he might be in a position where he might want to speak.
Okay.
I guess he has already done that. Okay, so you are the host, Buyung. Fantastic. So we can get going, I guess.
Let me give you host. Okay. Let me give you.
No, that's fine. You know, we can
okay.
just continue.
I give you host anyway. Okay, just in case you share. Okay, go ahead.
Rao. No, so.
Hello. Hello.
Yep, I can hear you. Rahul is in KubeCon, so might be facing some network issues.
Can you hear me, folks?
Yes.
Yeah, now we can hear you. Okay.
Oh, okay. So I'm.
Yeah,
please, thank you. So what I was going to say is that the two action items that we wanted to speak about. One is making sure that we have the sub projects identified by next week. One is, of course, the election has to conclude. Currently, it would be presumptuous of me to assume anything. So we're going to wait till the elections conclude. But regardless, I feel it would be good to actually identify the working groups, sub-projects, and take it up from there. I guess the two working group sub-projects that, subgroups that have already been talked about in the past meetings as well. One is about getting the dev-related security action items handled. If you look at the charter, that is the number one subgroup mentioned as well. So that would basically take into consideration the OpenSSF, related changes that have to be done across the projects and repos. The second is, now that's the second, third, and fourth subgroups. I feel there is enough energy in the room to actually also talk about service mesh and secrets management. But again, it depends upon the contributors and the ownership who would want to take up the lead on specific working groups and the subgroups. So if there is any specific work item that anyone would like to pick up, now is the time to call out, or maybe till next week, before.
Probably next week. Yeah. But I think after election is over, I think that good topic. But one thing, service mesh and secret. So I think that we need to lay out the architecture of the nephew, where you're gonna apply service mesh, and where you're gonna put sidecar, and then also where you're gonna put secret. We have to know there's some architecture. Then the team need to discuss about the way where you're gonna put the configuration for sidecar, and then also this Monday, SIG architecture team, they with Sandeep, he mentioned about nephew GUI UI. So once Nephew has UI, and we need to also talk about the user admin user the authentication authorization and possibly single sign-on, because and in ONAP case we're using the Kickrock as a reference implementation for user management, and also using OS2 based token. And then also possibly support single sign-on. I'm not sure we need case for single sign-on, but maybe join with LF level. We'll see. And that one, and that was I told SIG one, I'm gonna raise this issue to bring up this issue to the SIG security, because we need to have security. And also, as you mentioned, you talk about secure supply chain. Since Nephew, they allowed to put the custom controller, for example, right? And then operator. That means how do you secure those the supply chain, for example, right? With the who's gonna, how you gonna detect the tempering images, how to detect the who sent the images and software, how do you know they are authentic, or so anyway, several things to talk, but I like to understand your goal.
Yeah, each of these action items have to be a separate working group by itself. In my opinion. And the second part is, now we are talking about user-based RBAC and access control.
Right.
Like, and that would come into play because of the Nephew UI that you mentioned. But apart from that, now I feel there is a strong need, and this was being raised in a lot of other SIG meetings, that currently we do not have a secrets management in place. That's a burning problem that we have in Nephew, is what I've learned. And again, you might know it better. So before going on to the user authentication and user authorization, I feel maybe we'll have to, again, if there is someone who is actually more keen to take up the user authentication, authorization, and RBAC related action item, we can prioritize that. But the secrets management is a problem here and now that most of the other microservices are already facing, is what my understanding is. Yeah. So workload identity and all those aspects might have a bigger.
I agreed. I think I just lay out the items possibly can work, but we have to prioritize, right? We cannot tackle everything together. So I agree with you. So I follow your direction. So okay.
So in the next meeting, the aim would be to actually just lay down the chart as to these are the possibilities, and say, and few of them has to be mandatorily done. So those have to be taken up as P0s. But between P1s, we can pick up the issues that, or pick up the working group charter items that we might want to prioritize. And, doing a show of hands or doing something like that, maybe, and then go reach back to TSC and see if it might make sense for, from the priority perspective, if it makes sense.
Okay.
Not necessarily TSC, maybe.
Yeah, sure. Okay. Just information, guys. And next week, attend the LFN DTF. I present several topics. So I need to skip this, probably most likely skip this meeting. And also we're gonna talk about ONF security at that time. Also new security architecture and then thing. Anyway, so I'll skip. For information, I'll skip next meeting. So anyway, I'll read recording. And also look at the work item you guys said. Okay, no problem. Just
No, I think I'll send the slides before in time on the SIG security Slack channel, and we can do the show of hands maybe there as well. What's the big deal? People might be in a better position to do this.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Super. So with that said, right, one thing that I wanted to call out for some early. So is there anyone who is interested in taking up the next level action item for the OpenSSF, action items, like to get all the projects and repos within, so there are two action items here. List down all the tasks that would be required to actually handle the OpenSSF related scorecard and batch. And the second action item is to look at, Buyung, in the last call you shared one link about how ONAP is doing it, and check how do we get that handled. Do the first level analysis, and then maybe call in experts from ONAP security. So that's I'm hoping that by next week we have some sort of handle on these aspects, so that a week later from that we can try to bring in Buyung, and we'll require your help there to bring in. You mentioned Tom, right? Tom was the one who's
Tony.
Tony, sorry, yeah.
Tony is here. Tony Hansen is here. So yeah.
Okay. Oh, Tony Hansen is here. All right. Okay.
Yeah.
Hey, Tony. So yeah, maybe that could be an agenda item, a concrete agenda item for a week after next.
Yeah. I introduced Tony under his permission. I shared the link, Tony's tool.
Yep.
And his tool could be, used as elephant level, the batching tool. I know that you are using the OpenSSF, but his tool is pretty good. And Kenny Paul said, pretty good. So anyway, so if you need any additional demo or some insight, Tony's the best guy for the batching, OpenSSF and others. Tony, did I introduce yourself? Hi, Tony. Oops.
Looks like he dropped off. Maybe he's having some issues with his network connectivity.
Okay.
I wonder whether he's in KubeCon as well. Anyone who's having a network connectivity issue might be in KubeCon.
Yeah. He said he will join this meeting. So I think it will be good, because maybe I introduced him wrong. Just kidding.
No. I don't think that. Okay. Anyways, I don't know whether he's there on the Slack channel, so that we can solicit some questions, responses, or in an asynchronous manner.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. So two action items. One is the next meeting. So when does the elections conclude? Does anyone know? Raj, do you know? Hey, Tony is back. Hey, Tony.
Hi.
Yeah, I think it's next week, Rahul. The elections.
I lost the connection right as you were introducing me.
Yes. I hope I don't upset you by introducing wrongly. Just Tony, I think just quick, I'm not sure you can access this Slack, Nephew Slack. Then we chat a lot here. SIG security, if you can join there, it could be nice. That's what Rahul just mentioned. Tony?
I'm here. Was there something posted in the chat or something? The chats are lost.
So two things, Tony. It would be great to have you on the Slack channel of SIG Security for Nephew as well.
The Slack channel.
Slack channel. Sorry.
So we could ask some, solicit some responses asynchronously. That was the aim there. The second part was, if you could just quickly introduce us to the work that you've done in the context of OpenSSF, and the primary requirement there for hearing it from directly from yourself would be great. Would it be possible?
We will be opening the doors for attendees shortly. Please make sure all.
Okay, so I'm what you would call a long time developer. I've been working with ONAP since before ONAP was ONAP. And my work there has been divided in two parts mainly. One as a contributor and committer in the DCA sub-project, and also on the security committee. So I've been involved in the security committee there almost from the beginning. And so I've also been involved in the past with standards organizations and whatnot, but a lifelong development and security focus. So hope that's sufficient. If not,
so thank you, Tony. It's a privilege to have you on the question.
If you have any question for Tony about the tool, and Tony's the best person, can provide that info.
Yes. So Tony, one simple and pardon me for my ignorance here. A basic question here. In terms of OpenSSF, right? Like the kind of the tool that is developed, it's sort of nicely collates all the information across all the project repos for a particular organization, is how I see it, and then showcases information in the context of LF guidelines. Is that understanding correct, or is the
so? Open Security Foundation badging program. I don't know if you remember the Heartbleed attack, which came out against OpenSSH 5-6 years ago. There was, because of, or as a reaction to that, a group of security people, not just security people, but predominantly security people, got together and put together what they called the core infrastructure. Hello?
We can hear you.
We can hear you. We can hear you.
So I heard somebody saying hello.
Can you hear me? Yeah. Can you ask Rahul to come here? We need to set up the laptop. His laptop. Yeah. Okay. Thanks.
Okay. So the core infrastructure initiative is what started the best practices badging program, and they're looking at open source projects in general, and wanted to come up with a series of things that these are practices that the best projects out there follow, and they sliced it up in various different ways. Talking about your source code and how it's stored and managed, and talking about the documentation and how it's stored and managed, how you're doing your quality control, how you're doing your testing. And then they took all this series of criteria and split it up in, okay, for a single developer project, what's the base level that we think you need in order to get a project, the base level badge, and that's where the passing level badge comes in. Originally, they called it the green level. They had green, silver, and bronze, or green, silver, and gold, but then they changed it to passing. And so they said, here's a whole bunch of things that we think that every project should be able to get compliance with fairly quickly, and even the one person, 2-person projects that are open source. And so these are the things that you must do, and then these are the things that we highly recommend that you do as well. And then those became suggested items at the passing level. And then all of those things that they said or suggested the passing level essentially became, you must do this, plus a whole bunch of other things and a whole bunch of other additional suggested things, and that became the silver level. And then the gold level essentially took all those suggested things at the silver level and turned those into muss and added a few other suggested criteria, and that became their gold level. And they left it open so it's potential that they could have a platinum level at some point or something like that, but they haven't done that. And the questions have been fairly stable. About 2 years, year and a half ago, we added a question at the passing level: is your project maintained? So now, if you have a project that's not maintained, then you definitely can't be passing. So that became a required criteria for the passing level. And so that's kind of a little bit of history of the OpenSSF badging. Does that help?
So one basic question, Tony, in the context. Yeah. So the silver, gold, and so these are recommendations primarily from the LF community, right? Not
yes. So the core initiative, core infrastructure initiative, came out of the Linux Foundation, and at some point,
CEO,
they were folded into open security framework initiative from the LF Foundation. So 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago, the core infrastructure initiative got folded into the OpenSSF area, and they've been doing a rebranding ever since, and now their website, instead of being bestpractices.coreinfrastructure.org, is now bestpractices.dev, and so forth. But it's always been oriented towards open source software, and it's always been under the auspices of the Linux Foundation. That help?
Got it. Yeah. Yeah, I actually have some more questions, but I feel those are going to be project-specific questions in the sense, there exists a predefined workflow for the GitHub Actions for OpenSSL. Are there any challenges? I think the primary thing is the permissions that have to be allocated to the workflow. Was there any specific guidelines from the ONAP team about how to handle this? There will be multiple sub repos, and each of that sub repo might need some sort of permissions for these OpenSSF workflows. Was there any specific challenge or guidelines that you guys faced when handling it in the projects, corresponding projects?
Well,
okay.
So when ONAP was created under the Linux Foundation, there was actually there were two separate projects that were created both under the Linux Foundation that were kind of oriented to the same thing, and then they were merged into what became ONAP. But there were a number of practices that the Linux Foundation said to the ONAP community, saying, you really need to do this, you really need to do this, you really need to do this. And we recommend that we're going to set up Jenkins servers for you to do your builds on, and we're going to have the wiki there, and your documents are going to be published in readthedocs.io. We're going to use Garrett on top of Git for doing all of the source code control and review and management. And that basic framework that they gave us just immediately led to, okay, we need to document our architecture. We need to document our security expectations of each of our projects. We need to have the review process, and one of the aspects of the review process was that the person who was submitting the code was not allowed to commit the code. It had to be a second reviewer. So that automatically led to supporting some of the questions on a lot of the questions that the badging had, such as are multiple people familiar with your code? Do you have your architecture documented? Do you have your security expectations documented? Do you have the is your website where's your documentation at hardened in certain ways? Is the website where your code repository at hardened in certain ways? Is the just because we were following that framework that Linux Foundation said, no, you really should be doing this, we wound up immediately being able to check off a whole ton of questions on the badging side to, we need to have the architecture documented. Check, met that one. We need to have the design documented. Check, got that one. We need to have a source code repository. We need to have multiple people familiar with the code. We need to have this. Check, 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 check. And if you look at the badging questions, you'll find that only some of them really apply to the application itself. And like a bunch of cryptographic questions. If you store passwords for accessing or people that come in, are you doing it in a way that meets this set of criteria? That's one of the questions at the passing level, I think. And so did you set up your password store in a way that's separable from your other configuration files? Well, no, we didn't. Oh, we better do that. And it also gave a guideline for a lot of the projects to say, we hadn't thought of this. We really should do it that way instead of the way we had been, which isn't as secure. And now we can check another one of those things off. So ONAP as a project actually had like 30 sub-projects, and each one of our sub-projects has their own badging criteria. or their own badging answers that they do, because that ONAP's a big, gigantic project. And it's hard to say across the board that everything's using SHA 256 or higher or something like that. But each of the individual projects can answer that question. Their PTLs can answer that question. And so as a project whole, you can then check down, okay, this sub-project meets that criteria, this sub-project meets that criteria, this one meets the criteria. Oh, that one there needs some work in this area. And we then used that as wrote a bunch of tickets to, we were using Jira. Now that's one of the questions, are you using a ticket system of some sort? Linux Foundation said to use Jira, so we were using Jira.
Sorry, one quick question before I forget. So ONAP has distinct projects, many projects, right? So you just mentioned about each project, they have a sub-project, and then you can is qualified for the batching process. So Nephew, in Nephew, I asking Rao and team, and I don't know how many project you think is considering. For example, there are many controller. Do you think that's an individual project, or is, we are in the big Nephew umbrella? Looks like we have to, since ONAP can go into on the project level, sub-project level, maybe Nephew, we have to think about which actual component and then code group we going through this batching process. There's some little, is ONAP has a distinct project, each has a PTL, but in Nephew, we have a SIG automation, the group, working group, and they has I don't think they have clearly separate project individually. So that means the process, I assume, is slightly different. Just I try to.
So,
yeah.
Are they? So in ONAP, we have a whole bunch of separate repositories in Garrett.
Mm.
And there's a master list of projects, but each of those, like one or more repositories, would have its own project team leader.
Right.
So that became a natural dividing point in ONAP for the badging as well. And so the PTL was very familiar with all the aspects of that portion of ONAP. For example, DCAE is all about instrumentation and getting logging and whatnot. There's a separate project for policy management with a totally separate PTL who knew all the aspects of how the policy management was done. So it made sense for ONAP to split the badging up along those lines.
Yeah.
Other projects, no, it doesn't make sense. Yeah. I'm not sure how you guys are organized.
That's the ONAP organization. So I think the Nephew could be different. So we need to understand Nephew repository system code, and then that's the, in ONAP you see the natural dividing point, but we have to find what's the natural dividing point for Nephew if you want to pursue the badging for Nephew. That's my point. So we need to work on that. The we means this team.
Yeah, it really depends on your level of control and the span of the if you have you're going to need people who are completely familiar with the project or at least certain aspects of it to be the editors of your badging. And one of the things that we discovered after a while was one of the questions that's in the badging criteria is bus factor. Do you have at least two people who are familiar with each aspect of your project? And that includes being an editor on the badging. So do you have two or more editors on for the badging? As we had PTLs change and editors change, and we wound up designating one person in LFN. It was originally one person, and then David McBride is the current person there. As David is an editor on every single ONAP project.
Okay.
But so if somebody, the reason it's called the bus factor is what happens if they get in an accident with a bus and they wind up in a hospital for 2 months or worse? Is there somebody who can take over on whatever aspect? So it's that's needed for the badging editorship as well.
I think to my knowledge so far it's only Lucy, but we're gonna change that. Anyway, Lau, you have a question, right?
No, I just wanted to say that the points that Tony mentioned, that we need to have certain controls at per project level. I think that would still be possible in the context of NetView as well, because we still have sort of leads. We have reviewers who are the only the folks who can actually merge the request within a particular project. So there is a decision making process already that is present. Yeah. I believe we'll have to lean on the same team to make some of these decisions as well. And as a security team, our job would be to actually highlight some of those issues during their meetings. So more or less, what I heard from Tony was that you'll have to make some decisions, individual decisions at a per project basis, per project repo basis. And we have branch protection rules, branch reviewer rules in the context of network. I think the same folks would in turn be responsible for handling some of the security related action items as well. And it could simply mean merging the pull request. And as a security team, we might want to tell them that, this pull request would require, this would, I mean, it's a regular review and merge cycle that will happen, right? Even in the context of. So the way in which I see it, the SIG meetings will help us expedite or prioritize some of these issues in the context of that particular working group or with that particular SIG. But apart from that, most of the discussion will still happen directly on the pull request that might be raised either by the security team of SIG security itself, or so any individual contributor, right? It could be individual contributor. So yeah, that should be fine. Is what I feel. And the fact that we need multiple folks to have ownership of a particular repo. If it is not in place, it has to be in place anyways. And that we will have to raise it as part of the TSC meeting if there doesn't exist some kind of structure. Based on what I've seen that there are at least two people for most of the repos who are sort of doing the merging of protocols.
If it's possible for Lucy to say with confidence that no, all of the incoming APIs follow this aspect, all the inbound APIs, then, or all of the APIs have this cryptographic aspect met, or something like that, then it's probably okay to have a single badging number. But
Okay.
if she's got to go off and say, okay, I have to go talk with this team and to get an answer for them, I need to go talk with this team over here to get an answer for them, and that team over there to get an answer for them, then it might not be wise to have everything in a single batch. I don't know. That's up to you guys to decide.
Yeah, we need to.
In ONAP, we found that it best to split it apart. But different projects are different. So now, if you do wind up with a single badge, that's cool. Just recognize that for a lot of the questions, you need to, there's a comment section, and if part of your project has meets the criteria, but another project doesn't, no, that's where you can document that in the description. Say on such and such a date, this part met it and this part did not. So our overall score isn't unmet, but that's something that you can then look at in the future and say, okay, we need to concentrate on this aspect for that part of the project and get them brought up to the level so we can have a met across the entire project.
Tony, one clarification. So if the older nephew component interfaces API, we are planning to put service mesh, then 100% the encrypted communication basis, then you are okay to have one nephew batching, or we have another criteria we need to separate, depends on how team's gonna manage in the code. Is that right?
So in ONAP, we evolved to using service mesh.
Right.
And before that, each of our projects had to answer for itself how it was dealing with inbound encryption and inbound authentication and inbound authorization. And but once we had service mesh deployed for everybody, then we have a page on the wiki, the ONAP wiki, that says, okay, these are because of the way we architect the project, all of you can answer met for this question with this explanation,
right?
This description,
right? Each project just say we are doing service mesh. We don't have to deal with it, so we can pass that way. I saw the one of the answer. So that means if nephew, we have that kind of the framework, and then service mesh framework, and everything's 100% all the cryptography will handled by that configuration, not by individual the sub project.
Yeah.
Okay.
So in general, we had a wiki page that, so okay, at the passing level, you're going to be asked these set of questions that here's an answer that you can put down and check met, because as an overall project, we are doing this. So you don't have to think about it at your individual level, and you can concentrate more on how's your piece of it working. Other things like the architecture of the policy is totally different from the architecture of DCA and the architecture of ANAI and the architecture of what have you.
Okay.
And so those needed to be documented separately, and those questions had to be answered separately. But if Nefio has an architecture that covers the entire project, then cool. You might be able to get away with single badge. I don't know enough about Nefio to.
We'll figure out now, and the team figure out that's the Raji and then others. I think that looks like Nephew has one unifies, the architecture and allow the controllers and then distribution. That's my understanding. But what's the good segregation point? We have to. This team has to work on it, in my opinion. So we'll see. Okay. Great. Thank you, Tony. Thank you. It's great. Great insight.
Thank you, Tony. Thank you, Tony. I guess we'll bother you more asynchronously on the Slack if possible, as and when the questions come. Thank you. Thank you for piece of advice.
Yeah. So Byung knows how to get a hold of me. If you have any questions, feel free to send me an email. I'm happy to answer questions about the badging stuff or how we wound up dealing with it in ONAP, and or if you have questions about the dashboard that I put together, the dashboard, something put together 4 or 5 years ago, and it really helped us, particularly after I added in the various different sorting, really helped us focus in on, okay, for this release, we want all of our projects to get a passing grade on this aspect, or this aspect. And from SecCom, it was SecCom that was pushing this, and so it's always a security focus that, but the same thing can be applied to any of the areas. As time goes on, you can say, okay, we want to focus on this aspect now and make sure that we pass it. And that's how you get your passing grade and your silver grade and your gold grade, whatnot. And we just had our first project in ONAP achieve gold yesterday.
Yeah, right, sure. SecCom is security subcommittee in ONAP, and it's same function of this group doing it. Yes.
So SecCom and ONAP, we had a security focus, so we continually push the security aspects, but we also we made recommendations saying, oh, you guys need to work on this, you guys need to work on this. So, and having the badging criteria helped us focus in on certain things that, where we should work next. So, anyway, I'm done. Hope that
Thank
helps.
you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Yeah.
Quite welcome. All righty. Have a good day, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tony. Thank you.
Yeah. Any other topic you got? You want to talk, Rahul and Raj and Subham and Brian?
I guess nothing from my side. Anything else, folks?
No.
Yeah. Okay, sounds good.
Thank you, everyone.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you. Yeah, yeah. Bye.
Bye-bye.